For unlimited meetings, upgrade to Zoom One Pro. Plus, save up to 16% when you choose the annual plan. No thanks. We are here today with Brooklyn to talk about transitions.
Yay. So how we're gonna approach this is we're both gonna talk about two main transitions in our music lives. And then some of the challenges, growing parts that come along with that. And then also maybe looking forward to the next musical transition in our lives.
Sounds good. Would you like to start and tell us about your first transition?
Why not? Let's do it. It's hard to kind of narrow it down to two because you kind of like do all sorts of little mini transitions, but I feel like the first main one that I want to talk about is when in 2019 I left a master's program. And that one was interesting because like I love music, I love piano, everything's great. I like to work hard, love school, and I really love the school and the professors. But it was just one of those things where mental health was not fantastic at that time. And it was just, oh, and COVID. And it was just
why not?
Because why not, right? And it was just feeling like, you know what, for as much as like I could push through this is not actually benefiting me right now. Kind of wrong place, wrong time. I just need to take a step away. And like I have a bachelor's degree at this point. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to rush a master's just yet if it's not going to work out for me right now. So what I ended up doing is I left school, which was very unusual given my past. I've like never left school before. And like I always like to finish things through that I start. So I left, and after the first semester, I took some time to chill. That was great. And then I started finding work. So I love how the little steps kind of build on themselves along the way. So I started off with a part-time job in retail, and then that bloomed into like a lower management position. And then that bloomed into like a bigger management position over the span of, I don't know, that 8 months or something afterwards. And even from there, I also was slowly to like reintegrate musical work back into my life too. So I was handling the full-time job well enough, I should say. And I was like, no, I think I'd like to start teaching piano. So I started off with three piano students, I think, and that eventually moved into five. And then even in that last year, kind of the year before now, I was even offered a music directing position at a church. So that was my first time directing a choir. It was really fun to just sit down and play some nice music every Sunday. So I really felt that like my confidence had taken quite a hit at the end of 2019. And then it was just slow steps building to get that confidence back up. So by the time, 2023 rolls around, I'm feeling good about how much I'm working, and I'm able to incorporate a lot of music work into that too. And then it made me feel good about being a musician again too, because I was like, look, I can direct a choir. This is great. So yeah, I would say that that's kind of the biggest, one of the biggest transitions I've had to go through as a musician, facing the workforce full time after leaving something that you weren't expecting to. And yeah.
So
what
it was
about you?
obviously can I ask you a question first?
Yes. Oh, please. Yes.
So it was obviously in the long term, it was obviously the right decision for you. But in the short term, did you have regrets? Like after you hit that withdraw button, were you like, oh my God, what have I done? Wait, take it back.
Actually, no. And that just goes to show I kind of needed to trust my gut. And I was trying so hard to like not, I was like, no, I need to sit and do this. But then once I did it, I never looked back. I didn't regret it at all.
Yeah.
Of course, like there's always moments of sadness, like, oh, like maybe I could have had a master's by now, or I do miss playing piano that way. But really, like that January when everything was kind of processed through, that big like weight lifted off your shoulders was, I was like, okay, yeah, we did the right thing.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I dropped out of my master's. It's funny because that's a transition that we've both had now, is dropping
Yep.
out of master's. And I mean, I went to you for lots of advice when I was thinking about
Yeah.
doing it.
Like, how do I do that? Is it weird? Do you regret it?
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't, because it was like, again, it was just not the right place and not the right time for me to do that. And like, maybe one day I will want to go back and like finish that master's or do something else in academia. But right now I'm pretty content to just be applying for DMAs and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's tricky because at what point is it the pressure that we put on ourselves, or is it kind of the societal pressures of like, well, if you leave a program or if you drop out, like there's some stigma there. And
Yeah.
especially if you are someone who really takes pride in your academic life and, always finishes the things that you start. It's really tricky to kind of face yourself in that way, be like, well, wait, what do I believe about myself? And at what cost is it going to be to finish this program right now?
Hmm.
So, yeah, fun
Did
times.
you feel any pressures to stay from external sources, or like pressures either way, I guess? Like from your parents, from your friends, did you talk to anyone at the school before you did it?
Yeah, so I was very supported, really very supported by everyone that I talked to. I was worried that, especially when it came to like the academic like staff or whatever, that they would be like, oh, we already assigned you for this for next term. Like I was worried about that, but it didn't happen. I loved how supportive all of the faculty were, and yeah. And when it comes to like friends and family, I mean, I was also very supported. So yeah, that's really it. Of course, it's hard to kind of tell people that you're gonna be making a change in your life. And of course, people are gonna bring up concerns. But I say this all the time, where it's like all the concerns that people bring to me, maybe when it comes to my parents, I'm like, I did actually think of all those things. Like, thank you for your concern, but I'm not just making this decision out of a whim.
Yeah.
But it's good to talk things through, really, and just
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sure that I really am doing what's right for me.
Yeah, when I was thinking about dropping out, I talked to a mentor that I have, and she was really very helpful in like thinking it over. And she said, you're not dropping out, you're just changing your direction because you decided that this isn't right for you. And I was worrying about things about like, sunk cost fallacy, and thinking about, well, this is a waste. It's been a waste if I drop out now and I'm almost there. So why shouldn't I push through? And she was saying that education is not a waste if you've been dedicated to it. Whatever you get out of that, whether it's a piece of paper or just the experience and the knowledge that you gain from taking those courses, that's not a waste. And she was really helpful. And I talked it over with my supervisor as well. And she was very, very supportive, and she knew that my health was not in a good place. And she was very supportive. She was like, you can go on medical leave. I support that. You can drop out. I support that. I support you doing whatever is best for you in that moment. And that was really, really sweet, and not unexpected, because my supervisor is a very sweet, wonderful person. But just to get that amount of support was gratifying.
Yeah, definitely. So what about you? What is your kind of first musical transition that you want to talk about?
I guess my first one would be switching from violin to voice in undergrad. So I was 18, and I had been struggling for a while with just all these injuries, tendonitis. I had carpal tunnel. I had what I didn't know at the time, but I still get this feeling. And I now know that it's actually the joints in my fingers dislocating.
Wow.
And I just thought that was an overuse thing. I thought, and I'm sure it was, but it's a little more severe than just, you pulled a muscle. And I would just keep playing on those fingers that were dislocated, and I would be like, this is pretty painful, but I'm sure it's normal. I'm sure I'm just tired, and, you know, I'll stop after this. It's always, I'll stop after the next thing.
Yeah. 4
Um,
hours later.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I had been struggling with injuries for a while, and I got to undergrad and I was a violin major, and I started playing, and I quickly realized that I could not handle the workload because there's your private lessons, there's orchestra, there's all of the practicing for both of those things, and that's hours of playing every day, and I just couldn't handle it. I was getting more and more injured, and nobody could figure out why. I started getting neuropathy, so I would lose the feeling in my hands and stuff, and I couldn't like even like open doors and stuff. I the first thing I did was I dropped out of orchestra and I switched to choir, and that ruffled some feathers because they were like, why are we letting an instrumentalist join our choir? Well, you're not going to let her sing in the concert, right? And the choir director was like, she's a good musician, she can do it. And the concert was like 2 weeks away.
Oh.
So I did that, and that really, like, people didn't like that because like they had been prepping for this concert for a couple of months, and I just waltzed in there and in 2 weeks sang with them. And the next thing that happened was I had a really, really awful tech exam. I couldn't practice for more than 10 or 15 minutes at a time at that point, so I did most of my practice and memorization mentally. And I played a Paganini Caprice, which is a terrible choice for someone dreadfully injured.
Yeah.
But I played this Paganini Caprice, and I walked out, and just both of my arms, like I lost the feeling in them. I couldn't, like I had trouble putting my violin away. I got home and I was like, I can't unlock my door. So I like remember sitting outside my apartment, just waiting for some of the feeling to come back into my arms because I couldn't unlock the door. So I switched into voice. I sent a message to my violin teacher, and I was just like, this happened after my tech exam, and I'm so grateful to you for all the help you've given me and all your support, but I'm going to ask them if I can switch to voice possibly. And I was studying voice with a woman locally at the time, privately, and I got a letter of support from her. So I got her to vouch for me, and they very kindly let me switch halfway through the year.
And was this what year?
This was, it was 2016, 2017. So I finished, first year. So finished my first semester in 2016, switched to voice 2017. Yeah.
Cool.
And it definitely ruffled more feathers when I switched into voice. I had some people telling me that I wasn't a real singer. People were just very jaded at the fact that I was let in halfway through the year. But in their defense, I don't think it was widely known that I had auditioned for voice as well and gotten in. I think people only knew that I had auditioned for violin and obviously gotten in. So I think they were just thinking that this was some random thing that I was let in without an audition, when that wasn't the case. I had auditioned back in February. I had just declined the offer.
Right. Wow, that's a lot. And so I know you still sometimes play violin a little bit. Do you feel like, do you miss playing at that level all the time? Or is it now just kind of a nice passion that you can go back to?
I do miss playing at that level. There was a long time where I couldn't go see orchestra concerts. I couldn't see chamber music. I couldn't and I honestly hated the violin for like a while because I felt like it was being taken from me, and I felt like my body was not allowing me to play it. And I just like resented it so much. But I couldn't go see orchestra or chamber music or any like recitals or anything on violin for a really long time because it just made me too sad. And I still get that sadness, or not necessarily sadness, but yearning when I go to orchestra concerts and things like that. I find it a little bit tricky because I always have the thought like, that could have been me. That could be my alternate life. And I'm very happy with where I've ended up. But I do have that thought of that could be me.
Yeah, it's still a sacrifice for sure. And, even trickier when it wasn't really in your control either. Like you can't really predict injuries or illness or anything like that. So that's difficult.
Mhm.
Like I wasn't done yet.
I know, exactly.
Yeah,
But I'm happy that I can play well enough to teach because I love to.
exactly. Yeah.
So, I'm very grateful for that. Did you ever struggle with injuries or anything like that?
I fortunately didn't. Um, I don't even know what to say. I know how kind of randomly they can happen,
Mhm.
and unexpected, and also you can do all of the right things and still get injured, and
Mhm.
vice versa. Maybe there's people who maybe don't take care of their practice habits and they never get injured. So I don't know. I do take the time when I do practice piano. I play piano for those out there who don't know. So I always would stretch and like have have some centering down moments before I would start to play or practice, just to avoid anything that I could at least control.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's good. Where did you learn to build habits like that?
Well, I'm a former gymnast, so I feel like very confident in like some of the ways that my body works and like how to stretch properly, and muscle building. So I really give credit to my gymnastics training to even know to take care of myself in those ways.
Mhm. Okay, so now comes the big question. Tell everyone where you're calling from today.
I'm calling from Germany. I'm a very long way from home. So as I'm sure you can imagine, this is my second big transition that I want to talk about. Moving to Berlin and having a slight change in kind of my music path. So after 2023, or well, we're still in 2023. Oh, but I got to the end of 2022 going into this year, being like, okay, I'm feeling confident about lots of things. I still would love to do a master's, but I know that I can't do exactly the same things that I was doing and expect different results.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, well, what do I actually want to do? Well, I've always wanted to move abroad. And there's certain kinds of like popular music industry skills that I'm really interested in learning about and becoming familiar with, um, like technology, a big thing for me. So I found a school online that was like ticking all the boxes. And it's the BIM Institute. So it's the British Irish Modern Music Institute. And they've got a bunch of different locations, including Berlin. And I was like, that's the one I want to go to because that sounds cool. So I did all the prep work and sent in my audition tapes and portfolio, all that stuff, and I got in. And I guess the rest is history. It's been a bit of a whirlwind since then. So I got my acceptance at the end of February. And then I was still working like my three jobs: full-time retail management, teaching 5 piano students, and a church job. And I was like, okay, but now I need to like start getting my life ready to go. So I did everything that I could to kind of wrap up my life where I was living at the time, to move back home to New Brunswick because I was living in Ontario, go back to New Brunswick with my family for the summer, resituate myself, and then yeet myself over here. So yeah, over the summer was difficult for sure. Just trying to deal with visa stuff. Very, very new territory for me. So that was a huge learning and growing opportunity, but also very challenging. And what I love, like when I look back on that, I love how, even though things were really difficult and scary, I was still confident in my ability to handle it, which was not the case a couple years ago.
Mhm.
So I think those past 3 years of doing other things, hi Ollie, those past 3 years of doing other things, really only did good for me. Just like getting ready over the summer. And then I moved to Berlin at the very end of August, actually tomorrow is my 4-month anniversary of being here. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm here now. I'm just about to finish my first semester at the BIM Institute in the master's program, and it's a master's of popular music practice. And so I'm getting a lot of really valuable hands-on skills with just like popular music in general or modern music. So not sitting down in a practice room learning classical music for a couple hours a day and stuff. Like it's kind of just taking a new approach. And so I really love all of the people that I've met here. And I love how we all bring such very different skills to the table. And so, you know, here I am coming from a classical background, and maybe, for example, I'm not very good with technology, but I'm very good at music theory. And then I have classmates who are maybe the opposite. They actually know how to use this stuff. Me, like, struggling to plug in a microphone, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know what I'm doing." But yeah, so then at the same time, like, I'm actually going to be teaching one of my friends here music theory over the winter, just because I like theory and they need help. So, but then otherwise, you know, they're the ones with the skills that can help me too.
You touched on this a little bit, but how different was it to go from a classical music master's to a popular music master's?
Well, it's different for sure. And I wonder too, because there's obviously all kinds of different like popular music schools and programs and stuff. So I can only like know the program that I'm in. So I like how this program, it still is quite academic. Like we have to do like papers and all kinds of stuff. But at the same time, it's like you also have to showcase your original work and your business plan and how you're going to interact with the music industry and what skills you need to work on and stuff. So I feel, once again, like I feel confident in the things that I know and that I don't know. And even though it's scary to like be in a room where maybe like you're at the bottom of the skill set, and like I'll just keep using technology as an example, but like, you know, I'm going to be in a class next term where like I'm probably going to be the dumbest one in the room, and that's both so exciting and so terrifying. But at the same time, like I feel very good about like, well, I can do it. Like I've got a bachelor's degree, and I kicked ass at it actually. And like I've got a lot of experience and ideas and work ethic to give. So I can do it, I guess. I just have to let myself. And what is your second major transition in your life musically?
I guess the second major one would honestly be going from undergrad to graduate school. I noticed a huge difference, mainly in the environment. And I don't know if that's the difference between schools or if that's the difference between undergrad and grad school.
Yeah.
In undergrad, I found that the environment was very much that they prioritized certain people and certain voices in certain studios. And if you weren't one of the prioritized lucky students, they really didn't support you. They didn't really care if you succeeded or not. They didn't help you succeed. And like that's I know that sounds very harsh to say, but that is my honest experience. And I felt like the atmosphere was very competitive, and it was very much everybody wanted what everybody else had all the time. And the school wanted to foster that competitiveness because they thought that it would build a thicker skin, or it would somehow, it would make you tougher. It would make you a better musician, a more cutthroat musician. And when I came to grad school, I found that everyone was very welcoming. Everyone is very encouraging, both teachers and peers. And I really felt like I belonged somewhere. I belonged to a community rather than I was kind of fending for myself in this barren wasteland of classical music. How have you been finding your singing lessons? How's that been as you're approaching it as a pianist?
Right. So yes, I am taking singing lessons right now, and it's super fun, and very scary. Um, yeah, because as a pianist, of course, like every instrument just has its own nature to it. And I find with the piano, of course, there's limitless expression and vulnerability, but it is external,
Mm.
where singing is very internal. So I found out that if you have any sort of like upset energy, if you're like feeling sad or anxious or whatever, and then you go to try to sing, good luck not crying. I'm just gonna put it that way. But I mean, it's very like eye-opening to kind of be a beginner at something again,
Mm.
as a musician, because I'm like, okay, like I can sit down at a piano, I know how this thing works, I know how to figure something out, and this is where I'm comfortable. And now I'm like a little baby singing student, and it's very humbling, but it's also it goes to show like I'm in love with my teacher. She's so supportive, and she like pushes me really hard, but is just like the most understanding person. And like I feel as comfortable as I could being a beginner.
I also had a question related to
Yes.
like your master's degree journey.
Hmm.
So, do you ever see yourself going back and doing a master's in
Right.
classical piano? Do you see yourself kind of becoming I don't like to use this term, but it's the only one coming to mind, like a catch-all artist where you dabble a little bit in classical, you dabble a little bit
Right.
in pop, you dabble a little bit in production.
Right.
What do you see yourself
Yeah.
doing after?
Okay, so that's a really good question. So at some point, I don't think I would want to do a master's in like piano performance, for example, classical. I think I would much rather do an artist diploma. And I think maybe that's what I should have actually done the first time I tried to do a master's. I probably
Right.
should have done an artist diploma instead. But say love you, what can you do? That's in the past. But I love the piano, of course, and I really want to at some point build up those skills again and take my time with it. Because, if I'm being honest, I felt like a lot of pressure to just get really good really fast so I could do all the things that I wanted to do. But I think I
Mhm.
missed some things along the way. Just trying to calm down, really hone in the technique instead of trying to cram to memorize a piece by like the next week or something like that.
Mm.
So yeah, I would love to do an artist diploma someday. But I also do see myself being that person that kind of does a little bit of everything, but also has particular skills that are stronger.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, like I feel I will like I am happiest when I am as well-rounded as I can be. So I envision my life in the future kind of being this wonderfully freelance, fun time, flexible. And so I'll be like teaching, playing gigs here and there, both in like classical and non-classical ways, creating my own music and releasing my own music as well. So that's the goal. Like I'm just very open to doing lots of different things, and we'll see
Nice.
what happens.
Do you have any particular projects you hope you get the opportunity to pursue?
Ooh, all of them.
Good answer.
Any particular projects? I mean, I would very much love to write, properly record, and have produced, or someone will produce for me or with me, like an album. That would be a huge start, I think,
That
for
would be
me.
amazing.
Because that's something I've always really wanted to do is like write my own music and express myself in that way. But yeah, big learning curve there as well. But we're working on it. Yeah. What
Nice.
about you? What kinds of projects do you think you want to tackle in your future?
Well, I have my gender bendy opera company idea,
Ooh, okay.
which is essentially what it sounds like. I have
Yeah.
this dream that I have a small opera company and we just do operas with piano. Like we like don't have costumes. We do kind of like all black and like maybe each character has kind of a key accessory or like clothing piece, but it's not full costumes. and we just use like a little black box theater and we take it around to different locations, to libraries. We do a lot of outreach kind of stuff, libraries, hospitals, nursing homes, that kind of thing. And there's gender bending, and we cast a lot of queer people of color, and a very kind of modern, inclusive opera company.
Awesome. That would be
And I know that
amazing.
there are companies that are gaining traction in Toronto and Montreal and places like that,
Mhm.
where there's quite a big, vibrant classical music scene and quite a vibrant queer community as well.
Mhm.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, exactly. That's really exciting and would definitely have a lot of people really interested in that,
Mhm.
both to attend and to be part of. And so what do you foresee though, your next kind of big transition as an artist?
Well, I'm applying for doctorates right now. So hopefully if I get into a doctorate program, it's going to be that. I've
Mhm.
applied for DMAs. I have auditions at Western University and University of Alberta, and Western is my first choice. And I've also applied to a PhD at Laurier. So we'll see. We'll just see what happens. I kind of went for the strategy of shoot for the moon and land on the stars, or whatever the saying is.
Exactly.
Apply everywhere and hope I get in somewhere.
Yeah, keep the doors open and you're giving yourself a lot of options.
Yeah, like not rejecting myself first.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Nice. That's a good one. It's really hard to predict the future, and that's kind of where I'm feeling right now too, because obviously I just went through a big life transition, not only as an artist but as like a little human individual. And there's a lot of unknowns for me right now, and a lot of it is kind of logistical, which makes sense because I'm living in a different country now, and I need to figure out my next steps are how can I stay here. How do visas work 2.0? What is a residence permit? Can I work full time? Like all those sorts of bureaucratic things that I'm working to get a handle on. And I'm like, I don't want to do this again. I just did this. But it's good. Like I'm really excited, and I feel excited about like the limitless opportunities that I could have here. And I really love this city. I love the kind of network and community that I've built here even already.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I just want to keep going there. And this master's program will be done in September. But I'm already starting to need to think about, well, what is my life going to look like after that?
I have a question for 2019 Brooklyn. Did you ever think that you would move to Germany to do a master's of
Mm.
pop music? And do you think that you would be able to handle the pressure with the same aplomb that you're handling it?
Oh, well, that's the thing is like I feel like there is just no better time than the time that I chose. Like I'm
Yeah.
25 now, and I would have completely crumbled if I tried to do this when I was 19, 20, 21, 22. Like
Mhm.
I couldn't have handled this until about this year,
Yeah.
which is really exciting. But I've always wanted to move abroad. I really have always wanted to do that, whether that be for like a relatively short term or long term. And like I didn't grow up kind of traveling all that much, but I've always had that urge where some of my family members, it's like not on their priority list, but it's always been for me. So, I get kind of sentimental sometimes. I'm like, I literally can't believe I'm doing this right now. It's kind of
Yeah.
a huge deal.
Yeah.
But
A
it
big one
doesn't
to take off the
come.
bucket list.
Exactly. And it's like, well, now that I've done something like this, I really feel like I can take on the whole world.
Do you think that you'll stay in Germany, or do you think that you'll kind of move around Europe, or do you think you'll come back to Canada? Like, where do you see
Mhm.
yourself kind of settling down, if
Yeah.
settling down at all?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. At this point, I like Berlin. I'd like to stay in Berlin for a while. But I also want to like travel this whole continent. I'm like, oh, so when can I go to Greece? When can I go to like Spain or something? That could be fun. But I guess I feel very drawn to Berlin just because of the arts and culture. and like how amazing the public transit is.
Mhm.
And like there just seems to be a lot of opportunities and a lot of good energy. So I think Berlin for at least, you know, if everything goes my way, I'd stay here for a couple years, with some traveling in between, and that might inform my choice of where I actually want to be long term.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any particular either like artists or teachers or just people in your life who really inspire your journey forward?
Ooh, yes. I mean, obviously, yes. But I'm like, okay, where do I go with this? So first of all, there is someone here in Berlin who's a Canadian, but has been here for the past, I think, 2.5 years. And she was really helpful in just giving me all the information that I needed and answering my questions and just being supportive when I got here too. She's kind of like my mentor, and it's really amazing to have that with, you know, mutual friends both now in Berlin and Canada. So it's pretty cool. So it shows me like it's possible. I can stay here in some kind of musician form or some kind of artist form. I can do it, you know.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you have any plans or wishes to travel at any point in your future soon?
I would like to go back to Europe at some point. I've been to Italy and France and I enjoyed them both. I confess I'm not a huge travel person. Like I find it really
Mm.
stressful, although I do like traveling when I'm traveling with other people.
Cool. I love that.
I'd like to go more places in Europe at some point.
For
I
sure.
don't think
And
I'd like
yeah.
to settle anywhere in Europe.
Mhm.
I think I'm like pretty rooted to Canada. But yeah, I think it could be fun.
Yeah, for sure. And like, do you see yourself doing music projects abroad as well?
For sure. I
Yeah.
see
Cool.
myself like doing music projects wherever I go,
Yeah.
even if that means I have to make the opportunities myself, which I feel like
Yes.
you have to do a lot of anyway. So,
Mhm. Yeah, it's kind of nice to have that power in a sense over your career because quite honestly, as an artist, you can make work for yourself and make yourself
Mhm.
do the things that maybe the opportunity isn't there yet or right now. So you can do that for
Mm.
yourself. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. This is cute. Yeah.
What is the biggest thing or are the biggest things that you've learned from the transitions in your life?
Oh, that I am really resilient. Even if it takes a minute, I am very resilient and I will find a way and I will do the things that I want to do. That's
Nice.
really exciting. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
say
That
that's
must give you a
probably the
lot of
biggest.
confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And that especially the older I get, the more things that I go through and the more things that I have to fight with to like do the things that I want to do. Like the tougher I am. And I'm like, I'm still gonna do it.
Nice. And a
Yeah.
very related question. Um, what would you tell your younger self at like whatever age you please?
Oh, yeah. Just I guess keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's okay that, you know, it might not be at your exact timeline that you would like, or that you see for yourself, or yeah, just keep doing what you're doing because you're already starting to accomplish the things that you're wanting to. So yeah.
Nice.
What about you? Both of those same questions. So what has your transitions taught you? What would you tell your younger self?
My transitions have taught me something very similar, which is that there is always a way forward and I will find it. So for example, even if I don't get into any doctorate programs and I have to move back home with my parents, I will figure out a way to still I will figure out a way to make that work for me and I will find a way to continue pushing towards my goals, even though my circumstances aren't what I'd like them to be, they aren't what I expected them to be, etc.
Mhm.
And something that I would tell my younger self is I would go back to my little 18-year-old self who had just transitioned into voice and tell her that like she doesn't have to prove anything.
Yeah,
To
that's
just
a big one.
put the blinders on and don't listen to the talk. Keep doing what you're doing because it will work out in the end and you don't have to prove your value to anyone.
Exactly. I love that. That's a really good one.
Okay, so thank you so much for chatting with me about transitions.
Yes, my pleasure, of course. I love talking about life and music. And if anyone wants to leave their experiences in comments as well, or send the page like topics or ideas or work that they want to share about anything to do with mental health and the life of an artist and a career in music, yeah, let us know. We can do lots with this. So
Yes, we would love to have your input.